waking up to a kind of overcast day today, which is nice. The temps have been warming up here in the desert. We're having days in the low 80s, which is nice when it's clear and sunny, but it's also nice when there's a little cloud cover to keep that direct sun off you. So I'm going to get out and do a little exploring, hiking around here, see what I can find, and then we'll come on back to camp. I've got a little project I'm going to work on. Well, I made it over to this wash. It's a pretty deep one. I'm right up on the edge here. I don't want to get too close to this. I can feel the soft soil underneath my feet. So I'm going to try to find a gradual slope along this wash to get down in there and then take a hike up the wash. See what kind of plants and other interesting things I can find. Okay, looks like I found a little burrow trail that I can take down into the wash. And right off the bat, I'm noticing these pretty flowers here. Look at these. I do have a cell signal out here, so I'm going to use my CCAP to see if we can look these up. Alright, that one came up as gravel ghost. Common name. But trouble focusing. Focus. There we go. That's a pretty one. Okay, let's see if we can make our way down here. I'll thank the burros for making this little trail for me. Okay, we're down in the wash here. Looks like some of the creosote is starting to bloom here. That pretty yellow flower there. When they're in full bloom, these are really pretty. It's just all yellow. Oh yeah, there are flowers all over down in here. Look at this other pretty one here. Little yellow flower. This one's coming up as the heartleaf sun cup. It's pretty. So here in the Arizona desert, it's pretty comfortable in the winter months, but come, April, the end of April, going into May, it really starts to warm up, and by midsummer, it's over 100 degrees pretty frequently. And it's pretty dry during the winter. The Arizona desert gets most of their rainfall in the late summer. They call it monsoon season, and they just get these torrential downpours, a lot of water coming from the sky and going in the desert at once. So these washes really fill up. As you can tell, I showed this little pile of brush behind me. You can tell the amount of water and force that it took just to get that small pile of branches there pushed up against that brittle brush. So when I'm hiking through here in the winter months when it's dry, I do try to imagine what it would be like as this just a heavy flowing river. Doesn't last long. The water really absorbs into the ground and just runs through these washes pretty fast. Get a lot of flash flooding, so you got to be careful in those months if you're out here camping and exploring. It's another pretty little one here with a purple flower. This one I've seen before. If I remember correctly, it is the notchleaf scorpion weed, one of the common names. Gets this really pretty small purple flower. And these notched leaves. See a lot of these around. Okay, let's continue on up this wash here. Yeah, nice healthy brittle brush up here. These yellow flowers. So pretty when they're in bloom. There is a lot of down dead acacia here. Probably knocked over by the heavy flow from the summer rains. Looks like it's been uprooted. So this brittle brush must be a lot more tolerant to those flowing waters. It's neat down in here. Let's try to take a minute to look at this just kind of imagine how this all came to be. Got all this rock embedded in this dirt, in this soil. So this was all flowing mud at one point. It suspended all these rocks in there. It's amazing how it holds up. I mean, this does crumble away over the years, but look at this rock just hanging out right in the middle there. So cool. Some ironwood trees here. The Palo Verde here, kind of just hanging on. Seems like it's half dead. Same with this ironwood here. Also this time of year, got to be very mindful that it's warming up. And rattlesnakes are going to start to emerge. They become pretty dormant and inactive during the colder winter months here. So it is that time. Just always keep my eyes scanning the ground as I walk. And the benefit of that is you get to see all the little flowers that you wouldn't normally see if you weren't really paying attention to the ground here. Look at these little guys. Just for size reference, I'll put my finger in there. Yeah, little itty bitty flowers. Oh wow, look at this. Looks like an old car or truck upside down here. I always wonder when I see stuff like this out in the middle of the desert. Was this just accidentally drove over the cliff here? Or was it done on purpose? They were going to dump the car anyway and decided it would be fun to drive it over a cliff. I have no idea. Making an old movie, crash scene in a movie, who knows? But let's get a little closer here and see if we can figure out what kind of car this is. It does look like a car. There's no front end of the body on it. I don't see any emblems or anything. It's definitely older. Some of the frame there. You can see that's the trunk there. The spare tire holder was in the trunk. All metal dashboard, so it's definitely older. Looks like I see a gas pedal, brake, and clutch. There's the steering column there. Yeah, no sign of what it was though. Let's see if we see anything around the back. Huh. Big trunk. Doesn't look like the hatchback style. It's just some sort of smaller sedan. No idea what that is. There's not enough of it left to be able to tell what it is. We'll zoom out, see if we can see it better. Yeah, I have no idea how that got down here. Unless they just drove it right off the cliff. The tires are gone, axles are gone, transmission, engine. So yeah, it looks like maybe they pulled everything first and then just pushed it over the edge. Have no idea why someone would do that. And again, you can see the evidence of when this is flowing heavy with rainwater. All the twigs and branches pushed up against this. Pretty wild. Things you find in the desert. This is a new one to me here, California Fagan bush. It's got a tiny little purple flower there. Pretty spindly. That whole little bush there is smaller than the palm of my hand. That one's coming up as Guadalupe chrysanthemum. Another thing I realized with that Seek app is it also will identify a lot of insects. Kelly actually figured that out. There was a beetle around our camp, and she whipped out the Seek app and took a picture of the beetle, and it was able to identify it. So that's pretty cool, being able to identify some little insects and bugs. Ah, there's a creosote that's in full bloom. The bees are loving that one. Well, I'm going to go ahead and turn around here and start heading back. I've been out for a good hour and a half or so. I just heard some burros off in the distance. They sound pretty far away. So I'm going to get up topside here as soon as I can, see if I can get a glimpse of them. But not very likely. They do sound quite a ways away. But they do have a very distinctive noise they make. I'm not going to try to imitate it, but well, is it just me, or does it look like this is not natural here? How these rocks are. It looks like those were stacked up by a person or people. It's quite the effort for whatever reason. Always makes me wonder. Definitely gets the imagination going. Trying to visualize somebody out here taking the time to stack all those up. I mean, it could be natural, but gosh, it sure just looks like they've been placed like that. Oh, this is the first time I've seen this one. This is skeleton weed. It's in the buckwheat family. It's got these tiny little yellow flowers with like a pinkish red at the base. They're very delicate. I'm zoomed way in. Hardly see it when I zoom out there. Well, there's our landmark here, the old wreck car. And I see the burro trail that I came down over here, so I'm going to head that way. Make the hike back to camp. Ah, all right, we made it back to camp. It was approaching lunchtime, so I'm going to fix myself a little snack and dig into a little bit of wood carving. I guess I should show you guys around camp here. I don't think I've done that yet on video. Okay, we'll give you a little glimpse around camp here. We found this neat spot. Check this out. It's a big heart outlined in stone here. That must have taken some time. Those are desert gold, the flowers there. Look at the detail. They did this secondary ring here, all these smaller stones up against the bigger ones. And these are all rounded, so those must have been gathered from a wash or something. There's a neat little pathway coming in here. And this just must have took a tremendous effort. Some of that scorpion weed up here, the purple flower. I took and made this big rock wall here surrounding this little area. Look at that. Little fire pit with some nice comfy stones to sit on. Paintings on the rocks. Get a little shelter from the wind back here, being up against this hillside. These rocks are actually really comfortable to sit on. They're nice and contoured. Someone took some time finding the right rocks. And then over here, there's this big bench. All these stones set in there, a bunch of painted rocks to look like turtles and cactus. Look at that. This is actually some petrified wood here. Making that little design, some little ladybug rocks and cactus. Some brittle brush growing there. Some more pretty paintings on the rocks. It says welcome. Just a neat camp. We're just parked right over here next to our flower bed. I'm going to try to spend a little time working on some stuff that I've been meaning to do. I've had a couple pieces of wood that I've wanted to do some carving with. So I've got myself a little area set up over here by the van. I'm going to try to tough it out in the sun for a little bit, but probably going to have to move into the shade. I don't want to get too much sun because it's feeling a little more intense than it's been the last weeks. I'm going to be using this piece of, I believe, juniper here. I think this is alligator juniper I got in Arizona. And I'm going to try to get a spreading knife out of this. Something kind of thick and heavy duty that I can dig into some thick peanut butter with and spread it. Another kitchen utensil. So let's see if I can find that in there. Well, the way I do this is I just kind of try to visualize the piece that I've got in my head inside this wood. And it's going to be the center portion of the wood. So the first job is to cut a lot of the bulk away with an axe. Get a kind of a thinner flat strip out of this. There'll be a lot of waste wood, but it can be used for kindling for a fire, getting charcoal going. I'm a lefty, so I guess I should be on this side. So I traced out a rough shape here. I usually try to make it a little bigger than what the final product will be, because I always end up having to carve it down more to keep the shape. Alright, this is my little carving knife kit here. I've kind of developed this over the years. Just use a little leather tool roll. People always ask me where I got this, and it was handmade by somebody that I bought from. Can't really get it online. And I do use Mora knives. Most of these knives are made by Mora Knife. They're Swedish. This is the typical Sloyd carving knife. These have all been sharpened recently. I do have some hook knives for when I do my spoons. This one here is more for your kind of chip carving type carving when you're doing characters and detail work. This is more for just carving shapes and that. So roll this up. Okay, well, I think I've gotten as far as I'm going to go today on this little spreader. I'm happy with it so far. I really like the grain on this side of it. I think it looks really cool. That will darken up when I treat it with oil. I'll use a food grade oil, soak it in it for a couple days, and it'll really seal it so I can use it for spreading food and then be able to wash it. And it'll resist bacteria. So I'll probably do a little sanding on it as well, give it a nice smooth finish, and just some more slight refining. But yeah, that was my little project for the day. It's nice to sit out in the sun and work with my hands. Okay, and there's the finished product. Applied a little bit of mineral oil on it. It really brings that grain out. Look how pretty that turned out. It should be functional. Just really like the grain. Little spreader. We are finishing off the day here with some grilled brats. Got some coleslaw in there, a little crumbled cotija cheese. Go in with some spicy brown. Dinner is served. Oh, a little hummingbird just came by. He wants a brat.